Call to order the regular board meeting for Pleasantdale School District 107 Board of Education at 6:01 p.m. on December 18th, 2024. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Braca?
Here.
Mrs. Lenzen? Here. Mr. Nash?
Here.
Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mr. Zona?
Here.
Mr. Mason?
Here.
Mrs. Marchione?
Here.
I'm going to jump into the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance.
Great. Tonight we have members of our Serbian club here from Pleasantdale Elementary School. The club is open to all students and allows students to celebrate the Serbian culture, including its language, country, history, and cuisine. Mrs. Tome is here and will introduce the students who are leading the pledge. So Kathleen, I'll turn it over to you.
We are really excited. You guys can all stand up. Come up here. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
All right.
Sorry.
So, as you know, when a school has 20 students who all speak the same language, we are required to offer what's called a TBE, Transitional Bilingual Education Program. So, in our situation, we have at least 20 students who speak Serbian. Sonia Ujelik is our TBE teacher. She is working with the students, a fantastic liaison to the families, and has 26 members in her Serbian club, split between a 1-2 group and then a 3-4. And some of those students are here tonight to be just in our pledge. They're going to introduce themselves. They wanted a chance to be at the mic. And just a huge thank you, especially to the parents for bringing them. Tomorrow is their big holiday. So we know that tonight is a big night of planning and preparation. So we appreciate that you took some time out to join us. So Mila, why don't you start?
So do I say my name and my age?
That'd be great.
So my name is Mila, my last name is David, and I am 9 years old. I'm going to turn 10 next year. Okay. That is great. I'm Andrea. My last name is Novakovic. I'm 9 years old. I'm Theodore. Some people call me Theo, and my last name is Misic. My name is Azar, and my last name is Novakovic, and I'm 9 years old. My name is Maxime, my last name is Novakovic, and I'm 9 years old. My name is Milica, and my last name is Yuzelic, and I'm in 3rd grade, and I am 9 years old.
Do you want to say anything more about you?
Well, that's okay. Next time. I'm very proud of these kids because they learn how to read and write Serbian Cyrillic letters, which is different. And I was working with them last year, and this is my 2nd year of Serbian club. Like I said, they can say everything. We're gonna see their success.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. You want to stand and join us for the pledge?
Just turn to the side.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice job. Congratulations. Thank you guys. Great job, guys.
Thank you for coming. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I was thinking if I wanted to upset.
Yeah, that's fancy.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to item 3, which is open forum. And here we have anyone here, so we will go ahead and move on to grad boards. Yeah. Well, we'll back up to the.
That's fine. On our brag boards are some remnants of weevils, mice, and other small rodents from our 5th graders dissecting owl pellets as part of the conclusion of their ecology unit. Students started this lesson by having Mrs. Lauerman and Ms. Robbins role play that they are part of the CSI unit. They shared their business cards and secret file with students. The students learned that some forest animals had gone missing, and they have some animals that they need to question in the crime. One of them was an owl. Over the course of 4 days, the students opened the owl pellets and learned about how the owl has a gizzard. The gizzard is an organ that separates the bones and fur of the prey that the owl eats. They then cast or regurgitate it out. This activity is a favorite of 5th grade because it's extremely engaging and obviously a hands-on activity. We can also tell which students may one day grow up to venture into the medical field. So again, we have a couple of the dissected animals that they found, and some artifacts from the units, some of the things that the kids get from their CSI files. So kind of cool experience, something different than some of the artwork that we usually get. So thanks to the 5th grade teachers for that.
So these are owl bones?
Those are whatever the owl ate.
Oh,
So
thank you.
more than likely a mouse or a mole or a weevil or something.
Something. Okay, great. Okay, we'll take your word
Tis the
for it.
season.
Medical field or criminal justice.
Or criminal justice. That's right.
Okay, so we will move on to item 4, the tax levy hearing. So 4A is a motion to declare the 2024 tax levy hearing open on December 18th, 2024 at 6:07 p.m. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. Bill, second? Yep. Great.
Mr. Bracco?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenzen?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion?
Yes.
All right. Griffin,
All right.
we saw you last month and we get to see you again this month.
You will. You will. Not a lot changed. So we will do just a quick summary of the final tax levy for 2024.
James, can I ask a question? Is the internet working? Because we're not able to
You
connect.
gotta get on the guest.
We can't.
No,
We'll try, we can't.
we're having IP issues.
Oh,
like-
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
she can't
If you
get
need a
on the
device, I can
No.
give you an iPad.
Neither of us can. No, yeah, thank you.
guest. I thought they could.
I don't want to miss anything. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Do you
interrupt.
want
No,
mine?
no.
It's all right. It's all right. I don't know. It's all right.
You
Don't
sure?
worry. Yeah, I'll just go back.
Can I open my what? My hotspot?
Oh, all right. It's okay. Sorry to
You're
teach
fine.
hard.
No, whatever you need to do.
It's all
I thought it was
right.
just you.
No, it's me too.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
we're good, thank you.
Great. Well, we'll start quickly, briefly, just going through the projected fund balances. So fund balances to start the year, and then we have our budget in this, and then where we're projected to be at the end. I apologize, it's a little bit cut off there. But it's just important to be able to show kind of where we're at in terms of cash balances. And then because we're planning to spend, well, we have spent money to the capital projects to pay for the HVAC, we're planning to be budget-wise into an overall deficit, but operating funds, we're still looking good this year. But we will be spending down a little bit of the fund balance because remember, we sold bonds and we have the bonds in there, and we've now been spending them on the roof and now the HVAC. So, so this looks at where we're projected to be by the end of the year. Hopefully we'll come in a little bit better than that, but that's where we're at budget-wise. From here, quickly, consumer price index, 3.4 is our number. We kept talking about 3.4 this year as we talked about that. Levy, average of new construction, again, these are all things you saw last month. Large number in 11 when the mall came on, but then the rest have been 2s, 1s, 5s, 4s, so roughly around 4 million average, and so we use that as our estimate to ensure that we capture any of the new construction that comes on.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you go back one
Yeah.
slide? Is that green bar supposed to denote anything in particular?
Which bar?
On the right-hand
No,
side?
no,
That's just, okay.
that's just there.
Okay,
No.
okay.
Thanks for asking.
Perfect,
Not
perfect.
sure why it's
Just didn't
there.
know if that was like something super important we should pay
No,
attention to.
14, there was, no. No idea,
Okay.
sorry about
Okay.
that.
No, sure.
Thanks for asking. New slide for you. This was in one of the reports. This is a new required report that we're supposed to give to you and to the community. So PA 103, 0394. basically is just to ensure that in the operating funds compared to expenditures over the prior 3 years, we don't have, as a school district, don't have more than 2.5 times our fund balances in that operating. So it's really just a transparency sort of thing. So as we look at our fund balances compared to our expenditures in the state operating funds, which are just these 3 funds, operating can be defined a lot of different ways, but for the state it's just these 3, we're at a 0.973. So roughly about just a little under 100% of fund balance, meaning if we did not take in any money for a year, we could pay the bills for almost an entire school year, which is positive in a lot of ways, right? We realized that when the tax rolls came in really late the last couple of years, and neighboring districts were borrowing money, so it's good to have a healthy fund balance. What the state's saying is you don't want to be up at 2.5 times though. At that point, you should be being a little bit more thoughtful to your taxpayers, because you've got quite a bit of a safety net rainy day fund for the district. So ran this little chart, put in our numbers, including our newest numbers for 24, which you'll hear about next month when the auditor comes. And because where we're at, we have no action needed. If we would have been over this number, then we'd have to fill out a reduction plan to show over the next few years how are we going to spend that money down. There might be districts that qualify for a reduction plan. They've been saving fund balance knowing they're going to do like an addition or they're going to do a big capital project. So they might be over that just because they have that more than 2.5 doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong per se. There could be reasons, but if there aren't reasons, if they've just been levying a certain way and their expenditures haven't been keeping up, then they have to figure out how they're going to be spending that money or abating it back to their taxpayers. So that's the only new one.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure, please.
2 questions. So, so the cash reserve, the 15.3 number, that's essentially what we would need to operate for 1 year without any intake? Am I following that number? Because it says cash reserve balance.
Yeah, that's for that cash reserve, that's just the cash reserve of these 3 funds, which tend to be our largest funds in reserve.
Okay.
So, like the ed fund, that we generally keep the most money in because we spend the most money out of that.
So then the 0.973 at the bottom is reflective of what number?
It's reflected of the average annual related to the total.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to put you
No,
on the
you're
spot.
fine.
I'm just trying
You're
to
fine.
follow. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Cash reserves
Yeah. Right.
is 97% of what the
Average
over the
annual
3 years
spend
would be.
is.
Okay.
So it's not 100%, but it's just a little less.
Yeah,
Right.
if it was one,
Right.
it would be identical. right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's like,
It's a
So,
good-
so basically, here, let me try one more time, and now that you've kind of heard it, I think maybe this time it'll make a little bit more sense. So, in the last 3 years, we averaged spending $15.8 million out of these 3
Yes.
funds.
Okay.
And then our cash that we have in these 3 funds is 15.4.
So slightly under.
So slightly under.
Got you.
And so that's where you get a 0.97.
Oh,
If you
okay.
divide those, you'll get 0.97.
Okay. Yes.
Um,
Okay. But
it's the other-
essentially, that's what we need for a year if we didn't have any income. Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
That makes
essentially, that's what I was saying, right here.
sorry,
If we,
Shane.
no, you're great.
Oh,
If we
okay.
spent these, if we didn't get any money in next year,
Yes.
we spend this 15.4 million, we're gonna get close to spending the average of our expenditures out of these funds from the last 3 years.
Okay. Got it. And then is there like a rule of thumb what an optimal number is? Like we're almost at 1. Is 1 like is it?
There isn't really an optimal.
Okay.
Different boards have different policies for where they should be.
Oh.
And our policy is 50%
Okay.
or more.
Okay.
So, and I
Got
like
it.
the or more part.
Right.
just
Right.
Because
Cover
of
us,
what
yeah,
could happen,
absolutely.
and what has happened. So, yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. There isn't really a
Okay,
number.
gotcha.
It's whatever the board feels comfortable with and balances the community's wishes with their taxes
Mhm.
compared to how much you should have in that rainy day fund.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, great
Can I
question.
ask a question too?
Yeah.
Do you know why you have to cover this?
No,
Okay.
no.
Because it's a little concerning to hear, like, what if you didn't take any revenue for a year? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, wait, why are we talking about that? Like,
I think there are some districts across the state that have amassed very, very large reserves, and I think
Okay.
it's raised
So
some
that's where that
eyebrows, so they
2.5 is a
put-
number, like, you gotta be
It's the
responsible.
state of Illinois, so
Right.
that,
Yeah.
you know, you have a few
Okay.
bad actors that everybody now is
Right,
subject to,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's,
yeah. Okay.
Is this like a ISB
No,
form or a
it's not
federal?
Is it ISB form?
Yeah.
But
It just concerns me.
yeah, it comes
Okay.
out of, it comes
Yeah.
out of some, you know, some court cases that have happened in the past where people have challenged districts who have had funds that have been larger than
Sure.
2
Like-
or 2.5 times.
Gotcha.
And so I think, again, kind of what I said at the beginning, it's bringing some transparency to all of that. You know, so
Sure, it doesn't really affect us as
doesn't really
much,
affect
but, like,
us,
yeah.
but I think that's where it comes from. I think there are, to Dr. Pelzet's point, there are some districts that have amassed plenty more than that, and they just keep going, maxing the levy and maxing the levy, and I think their taxpayers are saying, why are you collecting all that money?
Yeah.
If you're spending it on, you know, your teachers and your buildings, and great, like, we support schools, but if you're just putting it in the bank, maybe they should be more thoughtful about how much they're levying.
Yeah, it's a good policy, I think, levy accountability.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's not really that difficult to do. I know there are some districts that are getting, they don't have their audits done, so they're using 23, 22, and 21. And in 21, for some districts, the expenditures were less because we were coming out of COVID, and you had some things kind of shifting and changing, so they're getting caught up in this a little bit more and having to do a reduction plan and things, even though once they kick it over to 24, 23, 22, they're good.
Sure.
So because the expenditures were, in a lot of districts, less in 20 and 21 because of not being in person and in
Gotcha.
school.
So the 2.5 is a legal stipulation, not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So then our levy, again, same numbers as last month, but reminder, the extension is what we got last time, and then the levy is what we're asking for, full well knowing we're not gonna get this much in each of these categories. Because we are asking for 4.9% overall, to ensure that we get the 3.4 plus any of the new construction that comes on the books. And so we've broken it down and allocated it this way. And I mentioned, although IMRF is larger, it's still small relative to our spending because, so that looked at those operating funds, these 3 funds, but when we looked at all of our funds, when I keep tracking those individually, our IMRF and Social Security fund is a little bit heavier than we want it to be, so we want to levy differently so we can kind of spend it down to keep it within those levels. Although it's not part of that legislation, again, there are some other tax objections that have been happening around the state for individual funds that are beyond 2 and 2.5 times. So I'm monitoring that, and then I'm adjusting our levy to take that into account. So finally, the summary, 3.4 plus new construction. That's what the extension will be. We're asking for the levy of 4.95, full well knowing we're not going to get 4.95. And then when you add the bonds that we have, the debt service that we need to pay, it actually brings the levy amount down just a little bit because we've started paying off that from last year. And so that part is not going up by 3.4%. So when you take the average, take the 4.9 and then this stays static, it brings it down for the overall. So we're looking at 4.77 is the number that we put out there. And then we have a quote.
Okay. Any other questions among the board? Okay. So we'll move on to item 4C, which is open forum. So we'll allow time for anyone to address the board on the presented tax levy.
Thank you.
Anyone here? Okay. So we'll move to item 4D. we'll need a motion to declare the 2024 tax levy hearing closed on December 18th, 2024 at 6:20 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, Becky.
Getting slow.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundson?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion?
Yes. Okay, we'll move to item 4E, adoption of the 2024 tax levy and related resolution. So can I get a motion that the Board of Education adopt the 2024 tax levy as presented in all related resolutions and approve the district superintendent to file the appropriate paperwork with the county clerk?
So moved. Would that be Griffin? Oh,
Yeah, but
the title just so
Yeah.
weird. Okay, yeah, no, so moved. Thank
Second.
you.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundson? And Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion?
Yes. Next, item 5, moving on to the consent agenda, which consists of the following. 5A, approve the regular meeting minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting. Item 5B, approve closed session minutes of the November 20th, 2024 meeting. Item 5C, approve payment of the November payroll and December warrants. I was the checker this month. I just had a few questions just to educate myself and make myself smarter, but everything was, nothing unusual popped out, so nothing to call out there. And then 5D, approve the December 2024 personnel report. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please?
So moved.
Bill? I'll second.
Okay.
Great.
Mr. Bronco?
Yes.
Mrs. Lundson?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion?
Yes. We move to item 6, informational updates. I'll turn it over to Dr. Pelzat for this section of the agenda.
Great. So, excuse me, for our facilities update, which is our next item on the agenda, I wanted to take a moment to address some of the questions that were asked of the board last month regarding the report that we did on the Burr Ridge Village Hall. So it's been a busy month since our last meeting. At the November meeting, the board asked about the possibility of annexing the Village Hall into our district, and we learned that the process, excuse me, to annex a parcel into the district from another school district is actually fairly straightforward. First, it requires intergovernmental agreements from both school districts. The Village Hall is in the Gower School District. The Gower School District has a long history of supporting early childhood initiatives, and I've spoken with the superintendent at Gower, and while he cannot speak for his board, he believes that his board would be open to entertaining a proposal to annex that area. The discussion was super high level, and we discussed the possibility of some unique partnerships given the location of the space. I believe that it's within our interest to continue the conversation with Gower should we move forward with this project. As part of the annexation process, we would also work with the DuPage Regional Office of Education and with the West 40 Intermediate Service Center. I did learn that because our district office is in West Cook County, then West Cook would be the regulating body over any school that was not in Cook County. The final 2 steps are to file a petition of annexation and for each district to hold a public hearing on the matter. Once all of these requirements are satisfied, we can annex the property into our district. So, like I said, it's a pretty straightforward process if you have a willing partner, and it sounds like, and again, there's still some discussion to be had, but at this surface level, there's some willingness on the other side to make this happen.
So would the ultimate decision be up to the Gower School Board? Is that who
Ultimately,
makes
I
it?
mean, those 2 school boards make their decision, right? So we would have a hearing, there'd be a resolution or an intergovernmental agreement, and, you know, their side would sign the resolution or intergovernmental agreement, we would do the same. Ultimately, though, it's not, it's a board decision. It's, cool, awesome. At the November meeting, there were also questions about whether or not we could miss out on grant opportunities, given that our district would now span 2 counties. Many of the grants that we receive are not county specific. However, there is a Safe Routes to School grant that is specific to Cook County. We have received the Safe Routes to School grant in the past when we did the Beacon out on Wolf Road. It took us about 6 years to get that part done. But it's not a reoccurring or regular grant. It's not a grant that we necessarily depend on the funds like some of our other grants. Quite honestly, having a school in DuPage may actually open us up to additional grant opportunities that were not available right now because we would have a school in DuPage County. And again, I don't know necessarily what those grants would be, but it could open us up to some additional grants. Any questions about that piece? Okay. In the past month, we've developed a more dialed-in renovation cost and are working with our architect to add some meat to the bones of our plan. The projected cost of renovation is in the range of $8.5 to $11 million, which is what we had expected for a project of this scope. That includes the construction of 9 classrooms, bathrooms, office areas, APR or large group instruction space, and outdoor play area. The draft budget also goes into further detail, makes allowances for things like demolition, concrete, masonry, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and safety. As we continue through this investigation phase of the project, the next step would be to identify the funding structure and provide the board with options to pay for the project. And that's what I'd like to be able to bring to the board next month, is like, this is how we would fund it over the course of the next 20, 30, 40 years. Cool. That is my update on facilities. Any questions? Great, awesome, thanks. I'm gonna move on to strategic roadmap. Great. Since the start of the school year, we've been busy implementing our new strategic roadmap. One of our first steps was to print the plan in an easy to understand format that could be readily available to anyone who wanted to learn about it. We're also working on an area of our website designated to the strategic roadmap. As you know, our plan comprises 4 areas: student success, safety and well-being, responsible resource management, and community connections. So far this year, we've taken a deep dive into the MTSS process, ensuring our students have a thoughtful structure around our support. This has included developing MTSS leadership teams at the school and district level, and training staff in multi-tiered systems of support. We've also implemented a what I need time, or WIN, at the middle school, allowing us to address students' social emotional wellness. In the area of safety and well-being, we're finishing the final deliverables of our long-term safety plan, which include the recently installed planter bollards at both schools, and we're working with our architect and a district committee to redesign the middle school recess area. We also held an employee wellness event where over 75% of our staff had health screenings and a flu shot. Under responsible resource management, we've attended an ISU job fair to recruit the best teachers for our classrooms. We've met with village officials and community members to begin implementing additional sidewalks in our community. We've hosted our first bike bus and look forward to hosting additional routes in the spring. And finally, under community connections, we've implemented a one community reading of the book, The Anxious Generation, and look forward to our community conversation on this topic in January. We also hosted a parent literacy night, providing parents with strategies to help supercharge their children's literacy. As you can see, it's been very busy, and we're doing great work to meet the goals of our new strategic roadmap. So really good stuff happening. Really excited. I described that kind of report as our December victory lap for our strategic. A lot of really good work and a lot of focused work, which is really nice. So, any questions?
I really like the idea of the literacy night. Do you think we'll have more moving forward? Because that was like kind of the timing was.
Yeah, I think we're looking at how we can do things like literacy nights and math nights, but then also fun nights like family nights and art night and stuff like that. So yes, we like that. We think families get a lot of value from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure. Cool.
Next, item 7, administrative reports.
All right, so this is me again. So I'm going to actually go up to the podium for this one. We're going to review fees, and then so the fees allow us to offset some of the costs that the district incurs. So again, every year the board kind of reviews the fees in December and then approves them in January. So I just do a 6-slide presentation to kind of review my recommendation regarding fees. So again, we offer a really excellent education at a reasonable price. The district budget, and you saw this in the levy presentation, the main kind of focus of our budget is that education fund, and so the largest percentage of dollars are going directly to students and having a positive impact on students. The board has been really good steward of taxpayer dollars. We actually have the lowest tax rate in, I think the last analysis I did for sure in the Lyons Township, but also with all of our LADZ member districts. So really one of the lowest tax rates in West Cook. And then also we recognize the importance of early intervention. And so we do have a preschool that is a tuition-based preschool. The reason I put that on there is because we're going to talk about the tuition fee as well. Again, just a little bit of background regarding fees. So back in 15-16, when we implemented our iPad initiative, we tried to offset that cost with just a $50 technology fee, and that was just 4th and 5th grade because that's where we were starting as we implemented iPads, and then went one grade down and one grade up each year. We expanded those fees to registration fees in 16 and 17, and that was for all grades. We added things like the calculator, assignment notebook. Our goal was to really streamline so we weren't kind of nickel and diming people throughout the year, right? Like pay one fee, we're going to give you all the stuff that goes along with that fee, or that offsets the costs that we incur. Again, as you implement things like iPads and one-to-one, there are some software costs and things like that that we often will offset the cost of those with our fees. So this is the recommendation, excuse me, for fees. So we've actually had our fees frozen since 2021. And we're looking for a slight increase this year of between $3 and $5. The increase is really to offset the cost of some additional safety software for our students. We're moving to a program called Go Guardian that gives us a more dialed in, more granular control over things like YouTube and some other apps and things like that. So again, minimal increase, so looking at $5 for some of those grades, $3 for 3rd and 4th grade, really that wanted to kind of even things out also. Instead of having a 57, let's have a 60. And then we left 8th grade untouched just because it's a higher fee already, and there are some additional fees with things like trips and some other things that 8th grade does, and so we felt like let's just leave that at $202. That's already a pretty meaty fee to begin with. And then as we before I go back, any questions on this? Okay, great.
Do you know, so sorry, do you know how our fees compare to other feeders?
Way lower.
Oh, good.
Way lower.
That's
And
great.
we don't have any transportation fees. Many of the other
Oh, I
districts
didn't realize.
will charge for busing.
Okay.
We have free busing.
Wonderful, okay.
So yeah,
great.
it's kind of a quick answer. I didn't do an analysis or anything like
Oh,
that, but I
sure.
can tell you that we're lower.
Okay, sorry, I was just curious, thank you.
Dave, I should have asked you this before, but with the new location of the 5th grade outdoor ed, like, is that fee comparable to what
It
it's
is
been in the
comparable.
past?
It is comparable. So as we look at preschool, what we've done, we did this quite a few years ago, is that we had implemented a 2% increase each year to just kind of keep up with inflation, knowing that not realizing that inflation would go up to 7%. But either way, we maintain that 2% and then a 4% increase every 5th year. So we're at that 5th year point where we would do a 4% increase, which brings the tuition to $4,447 or $26.31 per day, which is still lower than many of the private daycares and preschools that we have out there, considerably lower.
And just to clarify, it's the 2631 per half day, right? Like
Correct.
Just half days
Yeah.
left.
Correct. Thank you.
Is there any way to see a chart of what the cost has been over the past couple of years?
Yeah,
Just
I
to
can
see
provide that.
chronologically,
Yeah.
where we're at?
I can provide
That'd
that
be
to you
really
guys.
helpful, thank you.
Yep, I'll send that to the board.
Thank you.
Okay, and then of course, can't have a presentation without a quote at the end. Any questions on these? Pretty straightforward there. Awesome. Okay, so next month, we will have that on the consent agenda for approval. Awesome, great, thanks guys.
Item 7B, preliminary review of the 2025-26 district calendar.
Sure, can you bring up my slide? So each year, the district convenes a calendar committee that is made up of teachers, ESPs, administrators, and parents to review the following year's calendar. On December 5th, the committee met to discuss the draft calendar. We intend for the calendar to follow the calendar published by Lyons Township High School, especially for winter and spring breaks. After this discussion, we would put the calendar on the consent agenda for January, so they can be officially approved. And we've tried to do this a little bit earlier. In the past, we've done it kind of January and then February, but I think families like to plan, so we've kind of moved it up from December. We do have a district of planners. They like to plan their vacations and things like that. So, and so what we've done in the past actually is, after this meeting, we'll actually put the calendar on our website as a draft. So families can even start to plan, because generally it doesn't really change between the December and January meeting. But again, it meets the state requirement for attendance days. We're required to have 176 student attendance days. We achieved that. Our collective bargaining agreement outlines how many days we need to have in there for staff, and so you have different categories, teachers, and you have ESPs, and then our clerical aides make up a different category, so we make sure that they have their 182 or 180 days. Our parent-teacher conferences are non-attendance days for students. We have the same number of institute and half-days as we've had in the past. We have that April 6th day in there, which also lines up with LT in case we need to do a weather makeup. In the 10 years that I've been here, we've never had to do that, and I hope we don't have to. I honestly don't want to make people come to school on a day that they may have planned to have off, but we do have that worked in there in case we need to. E-learning also helps with having to not have to make those days up. And then obviously we have 26 weeks of school, full weeks of school. We want to try and get as many 5-day weeks in there as we can. Again, the vacations, the breaks line up with LT. We also have an institute day that lines up with the LT, a couple of institute days that line up with LT, and then that weather makeup.
Question?
Yeah.
Okay. The last day being a half day, can we get a little,
Yeah.
I mean, I know this is year 2, I think, of this,
Yeah.
or this school year, so this will be year 3. Can we get a little context? I feel like I get a lot of feedback on that.
Like
Not
negative?
super favorable.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think it's I think the goal was to be able to have a day where we do our field day, especially at the elementary school, and then kind of send everybody home and give the teachers some time to do records, break down their classrooms, and so the teachers will use that time to make sure final grades are submitted, maybe a little bit more at the middle than at the elementary. Final grades are submitted, rooms are broken down. The last couple of years, we've had construction crews that have literally been showing up, or especially last summer, literally showing up that next day, so making sure that the rooms were broken down was really important, giving them that extra time. The same thing is going to be true this year with wanting to make sure we get things ready at the elementary school for summer academy. So again, making sure everything is cleaned up, all the summer academy stuff is brought in, all of the teacher stuff is taken out. Yeah, that's a thought process.
Yeah, and you may not know, so this is probably a take-a-quick question, but I mean, do we see a dip in attendance on that one, have
No,
we?
actually, I don't think we do. I think because we have things like field day and stuff like that, especially at the elementary school, I think.
Well, field day is the day before.
Right,
So,
and so we
yeah.
have some events and things like that at schools. We actually see some kids maybe who shouldn't be going to school who are coming to school because it's kind of that last day and
Yeah.
getting those final yearbook signatures and things like that.
Yeah, my question also was about October. You know, I feel like every
Yeah.
year I get like feedback that there's no school in October, and
Yeah.
every single week is like, there's only one full week in October, and that's Halloween week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that at the committee meeting. We're going to be looking at making some changes to that for next year. You know, there's what is that? President's Day?
So
There's a
it's-
holiday.
yeah,
on
Columbus
Monday.
Day.
Columbus Day,
And
and
then there's
Indigenous
2
people.
days for
Day.
parent-teacher
Conferences.
Yeah, so you have the 2 days for parent-teacher conferences, so we're looking at possibly breaking that up, it may end up,
Yeah.
it may end up just spanning that over a couple of, a Monday and a Friday rather than a Thursday, or I'm sorry, a Friday and a Monday rather than a Thursday and a Friday, but wanting to have those 2 days to give parents more options for conferences was something that we felt was important. The Institute Day is something we can also play with and move that into September. I'd want to work with Jennifer and her department a little bit though, because one of the things that's nice about that Institute Day is that the entire township takes that day as an Institute Day. So for our specials teachers, like our PE teachers, our music teachers, who we don't have a ton of them, right? We've got 4 PE teachers. We're able to partner our PE teachers with the rest of the township, and we're able to do professional development with everyone together, or music teachers, or STEM, we've got 1. So again, they're able to work with, kind of have those job-alike professional development sessions that we're just not big enough to be able to offer. So
Yeah, and I think breaking that alignment with LT, probably would just pose another stream of issues, right? Now you have different kids
your
off
high
on
schoolers
different
at home
days
and your
yeah,
elementary
it's
kids
way
are in
too-
school.
I was thinking more though about the parent-teacher conference days, because those do not align with Lyons
They do
Township,
not.
right? So I know, I seem to believe we used to have them in October, or I'm sorry, November
November.
for some reason,
Mhm.
so that would give us back that week, a full week
It was
of
before
instruction.
Thanksgiving.
That's something that we can look at too for next year.
People would take vacation.
I mean, the problem when it
Yeah.
butted up to Thanksgiving is that we lost a lot of people just didn't come to their conferences.
Yeah.
Where we do see a really good turnout for conferences when we do it earlier, but I think it's definitely something worth figuring out for the following year. We're also going to be working with the Park District to offer some programming on those days, so parents who may have to work or need childcare have an option there.
What about the Monday after winter break? I get a lot of feedback on that as being
Yeah,
a day
that's an
off of
LT,
school.
that's
it's
also
aligned
one that
with
aligns with LT as well.
Okay.
And so we don't necessarily do the collaboration there, but I think what ends up happening is families that have kids at LT and here, they extend their vacations out, or it becomes a travel day for people. So we lose people, but again,
It seems a little thin to me, but.
that's something,
Oh,
that's something.
when you
we
have
can do.
them crossing multiple schools, you'll appreciate it, I promise.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that
The
in other
alignment.
districts too, I don't think that's just unique to us,
I
I've
think
heard other
DuPage
districts.
does that too,
Yeah, they also take that day,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I will say, having the high schooler and in our district, the alignment pays forward in dividends, I feel like. I mean, having the misalignment, it's like that, you're trying to travel and then this one's in school and this one's not, it's become very difficult. So I do find the alignment to be positive.
So parents really appreciate the alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I can see just D107, specific
Right,
being
right,
this
absolutely,
Monday off,
right,
but when
right.
you have them crossing in multiple schools, yeah.
When does LT do their parent-teacher conferences?
They do them just, I think, a few days before ours. I have the LT. I think they do them the 2 days, actually.
I think they were actually very similar.
Yeah, it was pretty, if they didn't overlap, it was within the day or
It was in
something.
the same week.
Did they overlap this year?
They did overlap, yeah.
Yeah,
Remember parents not being.
I think ours are Wednesday, Thursday,
Or wait, Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday.
Oh, you were Thursday, Friday, then I think they were.
I think they're Wednesday, Thursday with Friday off.
With Friday.
Yeah,
I think it's one day overlap.
We don't mind.
Yeah. Wednesday,
I think that's the
Thursday,
tagline.
they have Friday off.
So there was one day of overlap?
Yeah.
So I think that's something to be cognizant of, because I heard a lot of parents like, I can't get to 3 places at once, and I'm like, okay.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
Cool.
Well, this is good, this is why we were reviewing. so.
Yep,
Perfect.
absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Okay, all right. Item 7C, review board policies, section 7 and section 8.
Right, and so the board reviews the policies regularly to ensure that the district policies reflect the realities of running our district and that our policies meet legal requirements imposed by the legislature. This month, we reviewed and revised section 7 students and section 8 community relations. The revised policies are in your board packet. Charles caught a typo for me, so I'll fix
I
that.
was gonna
He's my
ask.
typo guy. All of the changes are reflected in new information, are reflected based on changes that, from our press policy service. So, yeah, we use press as our guide as we make those changes. Any feedback on that policy? And we will approve those then, those changes next month in consent. Cool.
Perfect. All right, item 8, items for the next agenda. So we have facilities update, school safety report, audit report, 5-year financial update, approved district fees, approved student, section 7, and community relations, section 8, board policies, and approved the 2025-26 district calendar. Anything else? Okay, next, item 9, open forum. And we're good there. And then next, closed session. So we'll need a motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session for, get a breath. The appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in an educational setting, or specific volunteers of a public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in an educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. And then also the purchase of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
Do you
need a motion?
Oh, so moved.
I'll second. Reliable first and seconds.
Okay.
Mr. Bracco?
Yes.
Mrs. London?
Yes.
Mr. Nash?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marshall?
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we're closed.
So-